Hi there, this is James Swanwick, and you're listening to the Alcohol Free Lifestyle Podcast, where you learn how to take back control over alcohol and live a life of health, wealth, love, and happiness. You are not an alcoholic because there is no such medical term as alcoholic. I'm James Swanwick. I am walking through Midsummer Common in the city/town of Cambridge in the middle of England in the United Kingdom. Please walk with me for a little while here while we talk about the term alcoholic and alcoholism and alcohol use disorder. I am strolling through Midsummer Common, which is a beautiful green pasture. There are kids playing, there are cows grazing. In fact, just to create the scene here, it's actually a Cambridge law that's been around for hundreds of years that cows must continue to graze in this common amongst humans cycling and walking, and so it's not uncommon to walk through Midsummer Common and just have a dozen, 15, 20 cows grazing as you ride your bicycle by them or you walk by them. You might be able to hear kids playing in the background here. It's 2:10 on a Sunday afternoon. Let's get back to the point of this. I'm James Swanwick, a host of the Alcohol Free Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you for joining me. So, you are not an alcoholic because the term alcoholic and alcoholism does not exist in the medical community. The term alcoholic is not a medical term. Are you surprised? Many people are. The word alcoholic has been around for a long time. It's a term most of us are familiar with, and it's often used to describe someone who has a serious problem with alcohol. But where did this term come from? Well, the origins of the word date back to the early 20th century. It was commonly used in literature and by the general public to describe someone who was addicted to alcohol. And this term was widely accepted in both social and medical contexts for many years. However, as our understanding of addiction and mental health has evolved over the years, so has our language. So why isn't alcoholic a medical term? Well, from a medical perspective, there's an organization called the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. That is a bit of a mouthful, but we can refer to it as DSM-5 for short. And it's used by healthcare professionals to diagnose mental health conditions. And DSM-5 does not use the term alcoholic. Instead, it uses alcohol use disorder, otherwise known as AUD, alcohol use disorder. The way I remember those three letters, AUD, is it's the same letters that I use often to describe Australian dollars, like Aussie dollars. AU for Australia and D for dollars, AUD. And alcohol use disorder is a medical diagnosis that describes a problematic pattern of alcohol use leading to significant impairment or distress. Now, it is an impaired ability to stop drinking despite the negative consequences. So notice that the definition of an alcohol use disorder is an impaired ability to be able to stop drinking. It's not an inability to stop drinking. It's an impaired ability. I'll say it again. It is not an inability to stop drinking. It is an impaired ability to stop drinking. And words matter. And I'll come back to this in just a moment here. Language shapes our perceptions, and it can either perpetuate stigma or it can promote understanding and compassion. So the term alcoholic is often loaded with negative connotations. It can imply a fixed identity, a permanent state of being, as opposed to an impermanent. And that can be very discouraging for those who are trying to have a better relationship with alcohol or stop entirely. On the other hand, alcohol use disorder is a clinical term that describes a condition, not an identity. Alcohol use disorder is a clinical term that describes a condition, not an identity. And I would submit that opens the door to treatment and to lifestyle changes, suggesting that the disorder is something can be managed and overcome. Now, unfortunately, what I observe in society is a whole bunch of people walking around describing themselves as an alcoholic. Oh, I'm an alcoholic. As if they just can't do anything about that. As if they have some incurable disease that prevents them from being able to live an alcohol-free lifestyle, or prevents them from being able to stop, or prevents them from having the urge to drink. But what we now know from the study of epigenetics, and epigenetics is the study of our genetics and how we can alter our gene expression through lifestyle, in actual fact, we can modify our behavior as it relates to alcohol. We can. So we are not an alcoholic. We do not have an inability to stop drinking. We have an impaired ability to stop drinking. That with some mindset shifts, I submit, and some lifestyle changes, I submit, we can finally get power over alcohol. So, let's go back to epigenetics. Now, epi in the term epigenetics is a Greek word, and it means over, on top, or above. And what this essentially says is, what the study of epigenetics has shown us is that our genes cannot be changed. Like our gene sequence, the structure of our genes cannot be changed. However, the expression of our genes can change. We can alter our gene behavior. So the gene code and the gene sequence will not change. We cannot change that. But we can alter the behavior, we can alter the expression of the genes. So another way to do that, or an analogy, is consider your face, or the human face. But let's just consider your face. Now, the structure of your face cannot really be changed, at least without plastic surgery. So let's just pretend that we're not going to engage plastic surgery. The structure of your face does not change. That's it. It's the structure. However, the expression of your face can absolutely change. Whether you smile, or you scowl, or you're sad, or you're laughing. The same with genes. Our genes, the structure of our genes cannot be changed. The sequence of our genes cannot be changed. However, the expression of those genes can be. So we have a whole bunch of people walking around the universe on Earth saying, I'm an alcoholic, I can't change. They're using this term, alcoholic, which the medical industry does not use. Clinicians do not use it. It does not exist in the medical world today. And we have a lot of people walking around saying, I'm an alcoholic. I'm powerless over this disease. Now, when they are saying I'm an alcoholic, I get that what they're saying is, I struggle with alcohol. And I understand that the term alcoholic or alcoholism is an easy word to say to describe their struggle. So that's fine, get it. But in terms of, in the medical field, there is no word for that. It does not exist. And so what we now know about epigenetics is that we absolutely can change our behavior. Our genes may be the way they are, the sequence, the code, but the expression of those genes can be manipulated with things including good health, nutrition, exercises, being in a positive, like-minded environment, choosing your environment that fosters healthy living, choosing your environment of peers who are supporting you. getting yourself out of an environment where there is toxic behavior and stress and anxiety. And all of these things can have a profound impact on our health. Using the term person with an alcohol use disorder emphasizes the individual first rather than defining them by their condition. Okay, so instead of saying he's an alcoholic to describe someone who might be drinking too much, you might say he or she has an alcohol use disorder. And this small shift in language can make a big difference in how we perceive and treat individuals with this condition. So, we want to say goodbye to the term alcoholic, I would submit, and embrace this term alcohol use disorder, AUD. It's an important step towards reducing the stigma and promoting health and vitality. And like I said, words matter. And using respectful, person-first language can make a significant difference in the lives of those who are affected by AUD. To go back to the epigenetics again, there's actually a book called Inheritance that I read some years ago by Dr. Sharon Moalem. He's a Canadian researcher and author. And in that book, Inheritance, he used the example, it's a very well-known example now, of twins who were born in the mid-90s. They're probably around 30 years old now. And these were identical twins. Same genetic sequence, same genetic code. And one of the twins was bullied, whereas one of the twins was not. And they've been looking at the results on the physical health and the mental health of these twins since the mid-90s when they were born. And what they have found is that the twin who was bullied has diabetes, is overweight, has mental health challenges, and the twin who was not bullied does not. So now they're in their approaching 30, if not 30. One of the twins is healthy, lean, as I understand it, as I've read. The other one is stressed, anxious, and overweight. So this is an example of how your environment can affect the expression of your genes. One child was bullied, therefore most likely was subjected to additional levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, which then altered the expression of the genes, which then resulted in a propensity for eating poor food, digesting food in a different manner, seeing life through a lens of glass half empty as opposed to glass half full, at least when you compare that to the other twin. And now that twin experiences challenges in life, or at least the kind of challenges that the other twin doesn't. This is an example of how our environment and choosing our environment can play such a huge factor in health outcomes. So as it relates to the term alcoholic versus alcohol use disorder, the term alcoholic, with people saying, I'm an alcoholic, I suffer from alcoholism, it's like they're saying, I can't be cured. I have this disease, I have this incurable disease that's out of my hands. As opposed to what I would submit is, you just have an temporary impaired ability to stop drinking. Not an inability to stop drinking, but a temporary and present impaired ability to stop drinking. Now, how do we get rid of the impaired part of that? Well, it's what we do at Alcohol Free Lifestyle. We put our clients into a group of like-minded people, and we support them with nutrition advice, with conscious communication, language patterns, fun, positivity, exercise, getting outside, exposing yourself to natural sunlight, focusing on sleep hygiene, blocking blue light at night with a pair of blue blocking glasses to promote a great night's sleep, ensuring we expose ourselves to sunlight first thing in the morning. We coach our clients on conflict resolution, dealing with stress and anxiety when it comes up. We focus on the difference between reacting to something versus responding to something. Many of our clients have been reacting to things most of their life as opposed to responding. A combination of these things, choosing a positive, uplifting environment of like-minded people with a common goal, while holding them accountable to good nutrition and exercise and conflict resolution and conscious communication and personal development. All of these things have resulted in a 98% reduction in drinking. That's according to a University of Washington study that was conducted in the first quarter of 2023 on Alcohol-Free Lifestyles Project 90 program and process. If you'd like to see the results of that, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/study. Now that was the result of the study, a 98% reduction in drinking. However, almost all of our clients in Project 90 successfully achieve at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free and have gone on years later and they're still alcohol-free and loving life. And you see it in people's faces. They come in on day one, they look puffy, they're nervous, they're timid, and by day 90 their skin has cleared up, they've lost weight, the inflammation has subsided, they're smiling. It's not just because of the removal of alcohol, it's because of the removal of alcohol which has opened up a whole cascade of healthy habits, including getting outside, exercising, eating well. We have a program called Leadership, where our graduates who are 1 year alcohol-free at least get to come into this leadership program, and we continue the journey of healthy habits. And we're currently doing what's called the Whole 30 eating plan, which is eliminating all grains for 30 days, sugars, dairy, and just focusing on whole foods, fruits, and healthy fats like ghee and avocados and nuts. And already folks in that leadership program are talking about how they've noticed they've lost weight, the inflammation in their bodies has gone down, their face has changed, their skin is improving, their hair is improving, they're sleeping better, they have more energy. We can all do this, but then there's that missing factor for most people, which is the accountability of a like-minded group, which is why stopping drinking in a like-minded community of people who are all stopping drinking and encouraging people while doing so really does increase the chances of success. The challenge for all those people walking around using the term "I'm an alcoholic and I suffer from the disease of alcoholism" is that they are identifying, I submit, with something that they find incurable. Many folks, in my view, are mistakenly saying to themselves, it's just in my genetics. My parents were alcoholics, therefore I'm an alcoholic. Well, let's just challenge that for a moment. The National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism says that if our parents had an alcohol use disorder, we are 50% more likely to have an alcohol use disorder. 50%. However, that does not mean that we will have an alcohol use disorder. It simply means we have a 50% increased chance of having an alcohol use disorder. And again, what we know about epigenetics is that we can change the expression of our genetics. We can't change the sequence. We can't change the code, but we can change the sequence. So even if we witnessed our mother or father drinking, and even if genetics being passed down leaves us susceptible or more susceptible to alcohol use disorder, what we now know about epigenetics, we can change the expression. Much like the structure of our face cannot be altered, at least without plastic surgery, we can alter the expression of our face by smiling. Just to come back, you may have noticed, some of you may have picked up on the fact that the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism has the word alcoholism in its title. Yet I've just been going on saying that the word alcoholic and alcoholism doesn't exist in the medical community. For those who picked up on that, bravo. Well, the NIAAA, which is the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, was formed in 1970, decades before all of this recent research has come out, and we've changed the terminology to alcohol use disorder. And the medical community has moved away and abandoned the word alcoholic or alcoholism. And the NIAAA have said that even though there is no such term as alcoholism or alcoholic now, for them it was easier to just keep the word alcoholism in its title as a generic term, so most people in society understand that what they do is in relation to people with alcohol use disorders. In other words, it will take several decades, in their view, to change people's understanding that the word alcoholic doesn't exist, so they decided it was easier to keep it so people would understand generally what it does, which is help people overcome their problematic drinking habits. So, it's time to say goodbye to the term alcoholic. It's time to say goodbye to the term alcoholism. When we see people describing themselves as an alcoholic, we can understand that what they're saying is effectively, I have problems with alcohol. But based on medical terminology today, it is inaccurate to describe yourself as an alcoholic. Because in the medical community, it just does not exist. Nor does the word alcoholism, even if the NIAAA continues to use the word alcoholism in its title, as confusing as that may appear to be. Remember that an alcohol use disorder is defined as an impaired ability to stop or control alcohol, not an inability. And I submit we all have an ability to stop and control alcohol. And with the mind rewiring, a like-minded community, like we have in Project 90 at Alcohol Free Lifestyle, with health and nutrition and a focus on moving our bodies, getting sunlight, personal development programs, focusing on conscious communication, improving our relationships with our husband and wife and our children, we can get long-term power over our drinking habits. We can eliminate alcohol use disorder from our life. We can change the expression of our genes with healthy habits. We are not stuck and in a prison forever simply because our parents and our grandparents were described as alcoholics. We can change the expression of our genes. We can change our habits. Just like our genes change our lives can change our genes. Thanks so much for listening. I'll catch you on the next one.